Good evening and thank you for joining us for KREM 2 News 10 at 10, where we give you more news in less time. Let's get started. Video was released today by local media in Texas, and it shows more than an hour of inaction by law enforcement in Uvalde, Texas, as a gunman killed 19 children and 2 teachers. The video does not show the violence and has been edited to remove the sounds of children screaming, but it is still very disturbing and difficult to watch. CBS's Janet Shamlian shares that footage tonight.
For the first time, we are seeing the horrifying moments the gunman entered Robb Elementary in Uvalde. The gunman walking down an empty hallway, stopping to fire into classrooms. A student spots the shooter as he rounds a corner and then runs away. 3 minutes later, the first police enter the building. They're shot at by the gunman and they run away. The video released by the Austin American-Statesman then jumps to 19 minutes later. Now there's an even larger and more heavily armed police presence, but still, no entry to the classrooms where the gunman fired more than 100 rounds, killing 19 children and 2 teachers. It is difficult to watch. For long periods of time, officers stand in the hallway. One officer walking over to a wall-mounted hand sanitizer in the midst of the carnage. At 77 minutes into the edited video, the breach is made into the classroom and a barrage of gunfire can be heard. The release has been part of a fight between numerous government officials and agencies, including the Uvalde district attorney who opposed it. Those calling for its release, including victims' families, hoped it would help explain the delayed response and why officers put their own safety ahead of those of the children. But tonight, it has only raised more questions.
That video was supposed to be shown to the families and the community first on Sunday. The head of the Texas Department of Public Safety says he's deeply disturbed that it didn't happen that way. Janet Shamlian, CBS News, Houston.
Meanwhile, tonight, the families of the 19 children and 2 teachers were at the meeting in reaction to the video being released earlier today. The families were supposed to see it, as Janet Shamlian just mentioned, for the first time this weekend before it was released publicly. Well, tonight, Uvalde City Council members say the gunman's movements and gunfire were not going to be included. The mayor of Uvalde criticizing the early release of the video, calling it one of the most chicken things that he has ever seen. A member in the audience responding that instead of attacking the media, they should be attacking the police who, quote, did nothing.
You guys can get creative like she-Ra. I'm attacking the media, y'all should attack. Yeah, you're not attacking the cops who did nothing.
You're missing the point, Adam, because you don't want to hear but what you want to hear.
Meanwhile, some family members are in Washington, D.C. They're attending a rally on Wednesday to call for stricter gun control laws and an assault weapons ban as well. Let's switch gears and talk weather, because today was a hot one, the hottest day of the year so far across the inland Northwest. Meteorologist Michelle Boss joining us tonight. And Michelle, today was just kind of the first day of a string of hot weather heading our way.
Yeah, we saw temperatures get into the 90s, and we'll cool it down a couple of degrees over the next couple of days, but it really is going to stay warm pretty much the entire rest of the week. But despite how hot and dry it was for most of the day today, we are looking at some unsettled weather coming in during the overnight and early morning hours, starting to see some showers and even a few thunderstorms popping up across the inland Northwest. Don't be fooled by a lot of the green here on radar. We're not expecting much in the way of precipitation as the lower levels are really dry. So unfortunately, looking at some rumbles of thunder and some lightning, and probably won't see a whole lot of rainfall as any of these storms move through. We're kind of zooming in here across central Washington and can see a few isolated cells just to the northeast of Ritzville, and quite a bit of lightning out just to the east of Moses Lake and also to our southwest, seeing some showers and thunderstorms across the Blues, also moving across the northeast. So Spokane could get into some of that overnight and early tomorrow morning, but it is going to stay hot. 79 right now at the 10 o'clock hour, 74 in Coeur d'Alene, 87 in Moses Lake, and also in Lewiston. Here's a look at the next 12 hours. Clouds are going to keep very mild overnight. We should just dip down into the upper 60s, and an isolated thunderstorm tomorrow morning, but it should turn hot, dry, and breezy tomorrow afternoon in the upper 80s for tomorrow and Thursday, and could be back into the 90s by Friday.
All right, sounds good, Michelle. We'll check back in with you later in the broadcast. And now to our night beat with a quick look at the day's top stories. North Idaho realtors say the housing market is changing once again. They say inflation and rising interest rates are creating a slowdown in the market.
This house behind me, it's listed at $445,000. If somebody was going to purchase it in January, with like a 10% down, their mortgage would be about $2,000, just a rough estimate. Now, because of interest rates, the mortgage is about $2,500. So that's $500 more. And for a first-time homeowner, that's tough coming up with additional $500 a month.
On the flip side, she says that sellers are also struggling with the change. Previous market trends have sellers wanting to price their homes for more. She says looking at housing data today, she saw more than 100 price changes, and she says that sellers need to continue to adjust to the reality of the market if they want to close on their homes. Well, one person is dead after a motorcycle crash in Spokane Valley early this morning at around 1 o'clock this morning. Troopers say they tried to pull over a motorcycle. According to Washington State Patrol, that's when the motorcyclist took off northbound on Pines and soon after crashed into a car. That motorcyclist went airborne before slamming onto the pavement. WSP reports the motorcyclist died at the scene. That person's identity has not yet been released.
It's a gamble. If it doesn't pay out, then we lost that $5,000, $8,000. And that's critical to a budget, for a police force when we actually use the last $1,000 of our budget. So we probably wouldn't have done it.
A new forensic program is helping Washington State solve more cold cases. Attorney General Bob Ferguson says 2 men will be held responsible for their crimes because of the program. Agencies hire forensic genetic genealogists who can dig deeper into public DNA databases. But the process is expensive. It can cost more than $5,000 per case, often just too expensive for some smaller police agencies. Recently, the database helped solve a string of sexual assaults in Pullman from the early 2000s. Right now, more than 24 agencies are using the grant, which the Attorney General is hopeful will solve more cold cases. Meanwhile, tonight we have an update for you in an officer-involved shooting from 2 weeks ago. Spokane Mayor Nadine Woodward posting photos today on her Facebook page with the officer who was shot. The mayor said the 27-year veteran received wounds to his leg and head, but that the officer was, quote, doing well. We hope to have that picture for you maybe coming up in our 11 p.m. broadcast. Meanwhile, on Friday, the community turned out for a fundraiser with free pizza to support the police department. And that was your Night Beat. To learn more about any of these stories, just text us the word night to 509-448-2000 and we'll send them directly to your phone. Well, a local man is charged with killing an elderly person that he was caring for. 77-year-old Kenneth Witten spent 4 weeks in the hospital before his death, and he told police at that time that his caregiver tortured him for 12 hours. KREM 2's Kyle Simchuk is digging through the disturbing court documents.
Well, the caregiver originally told police the 77-year-old fell down some stairs, but the elderly man told nurses and police that just wasn't true. He said a friend he trusted to take care of him beat him up for hours. His injuries proved to be fatal weeks later. When 77-year-old Kenneth Witten was brought to Sacred Heart Hospital in February, doctors found he had a broken hip, spine fractures, cuts, scrapes, and bruises covering his entire body. When nurses asked him what happened, he said, quote, "George kicked me," according to court documents. Detectives soon learned it was more than just a kick. Witten said that his friend and caregiver, 44-year-old George Sessions, tortured him inside his Northeast Spokane home for 12 hours, according to court documents. Witten described the assault, telling detectives that Sessions knocked him to the ground repeatedly, jumped on his chest, and pulled his arms to the point it felt as if his skin was about to rip off. Witten also said that at one point Sessions shoved a cigarette and a dollar bill in his mouth, according to court documents. He felt the abuse was never going to end. Sessions called 911 twice on February 1st to report his friend fell and couldn't get up. Spokane firefighters found Witten on the floor in the kitchen with skin tears on his arms and bruising on his ribs. He told firefighters Sessions had beaten him up but declined to go to the hospital. He was taken to the ER the second time firefighters responded to the home, according to court documents. Witten spent 4 weeks in the hospital and died February 28th. The Spokane County Medical Examiner ruled his death a homicide. Detectives continued to investigate and found probable cause to charge Sessions with second-degree murder. He was arrested on Friday. And the victim told police that Sessions is a meth addict and that the two of them used to do it in the past. Sessions is being held on a $750,000 bond. He declined our request for a jailhouse interview. In the newsroom, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
All right, Kyle, thank you very much. And that was your KREM 2 News 10 at 10, where you get more news in less time. But don't go to bed just yet. In our continued Boomtown coverage, we'll share the main reason why local animal shelters are at max capacity right now. We're back in just 90 seconds.